Hello there. I'm glad to be with you today. Hope you're having a fantastic week. Are all set for a beautiful weekend and the week ahead. Um, Today, I'm going to be talking about something which it comes up a lot. It's come up again. For many of you that normally watch me, you don't need to be convinced. This isn't, and I'm not really trying to convince anybody. What I'm trying to do is share the compelling logic and science to support the idea of what our optimal human diet is. Now, again, many of you know what I believe and may agree with me if you're here normally, but I think it's important to actually talk about some of the science here today and some of the logic as well, because it's really we're looking at this from both perspectives, right? They're both important. Um, so where to start? I think I'm going to maybe give people just a few more minutes to join us, but maybe I can start. Move the screen just a little bit. Maybe I can start by just reminding everybody that uh, there are 25 million animal species on the planet. It's estimated. Every one of them has one species specific diet. And so while many people would say that what works for you doesn't work for me, each body is unique. We're all individuals. Of course, we're individuals in many ways. We have different personalities. We have different levels of athletic ability and intelligence and creativity, et cetera, et cetera. But our digestive systems, physiologically and anatomically, we are essentially the same. Okay. And so the idea that we're the one species out of 25 million where your digestive tract is different than mine, that's not really very likely the case for any other species. All right. And so I want to be talking about just exactly how we can understand that. How do we know that? And for many of you, if even if you're already on the same page as I am, people ask me all the time, how do I get the people I love, my friends, my family, to understand what I'm doing, or maybe to help them to make better choices? Because we all know that the average person out there is not very healthy. 80% of the population will die of cancer, heart disease, or stroke. Okay, we know that. Most of these people are eating a diet that consists primarily of processed foods. And so I think it's important to acknowledge, there are those people who say, well, they're much healthier eating a carnivore diet. And I would suggest a carnivore diet is an incredibly unhealthy diet. Again, there's plenty of research, and we'll talk about some of that. But how is it that these people feel better? And I think it's important to say feel better rather than necessarily are healthier. Now, they may in fact be healthier in some ways. And I think the important thing to understand is that it's because they're eliminating all of the garbage processed foods. No one should be eating processed foods. No one. I mean, most of the stuff in the grocery store, in the average American grocery store, there's more than 50,000 different products, different things you can buy. I believe it's only something like 100 different fruits and vegetables. Okay, in most places. In some places, it's much less than that. Okay, so the vast majority of things available for purchase are, in fact, processed foods. Of course, there's animal products too. And animal products make up a significant percentage as well. It's about 65% processed foods, and it's something like 32% animal products for most people. Now, that combination leaves most people ill. Most people live to 79 or 80. They die with cancer, heart disease, or stroke. And no one needs to die of these conditions. No one. And we know of people, I mean, there are many examples of people who live to 110 or even more, 115, even older. So if a body can live to 110 years, why can't everybody do that? So I believe we can actually live to 125 years and maybe longer. But let's say it's 110 years and we're living instead to an average of 80 years. Okay, well, that means that we are doing less than 80% of what we could be. Obviously, if it's 125, we're doing much less, much less. Okay, if we're leaving on average 45 years on the table, we're not even living 2/3 as long as we could be living. So we know for a fact the starting point is that the conventional diets are garbage, and anybody, if you're smart enough to be here, you already know that. So the real question is, are we carnivores or are we herbivores? Now, a not particularly bright person said to me, well, we're clearly not herbivores. Herbivores have multiple stomachs. So let me clarify something for you that further confuses the discussion. Herbivore is an umbrella term which includes all plant-eating animals. Okay, and it's estimated something like 4 or 5 million animal species that only eat plants. Okay, all species have the same basic needs. There are some minor differences in terms of nutrient needs for various reasons, but we all need essentially the same nutrients. How we get them is the question. Okay, so clearly, if millions of animal species live on plants, clearly it's possible to live on plants, and we don't even need that. I mean, someone said to me in a comment yesterday, animal protein is essential to the body. We don't need plants at all, right? There's a well-known doctor you might have heard of. He's on covers of magazines, Anthony Chaffee, who says plants are trying to kill us. Well, as is true with many things, there's half-truths involved. I mean, most plants don't want to be eaten, and they make toxic substances to protect themselves. Okay, and so we can't just go out into to nature and eat any plant we choose to, because most plants protect themselves from that happening. Okay, and our species has not evolved. For instance, rabbits are one of the only species, maybe the only species, that can eat tobacco leaves, which are highly toxic. They've evolved to be able to metabolize the poison in tobacco leaves. Okay, well, our bodies have not evolved to metabolize a lot of these virulent plant poisons so that most plants protect themselves with. But there are plenty of plants that people have been eating for forever that don't have any significant protection against being eaten. Some of the ones that still do are cooked to be eaten. Now, am I suggesting we should be eating those? Absolutely not. Okay, there is one class of plants, or plant parts to be more specific, that don't typically protect themselves. Okay, because in fact they benefit from being eaten. What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about fruits. Okay, fruiting plants make fruit in order to get their seeds distributed. An issue that every tree has is how to get its seeds somewhere else. Every plant wants to propagate, wants to make as many copies of itself as possible, but trees can't go over there and plant the seeds. So they need a way to get those seeds distributed. Well, fruits are one of the most effective, if not the most effective way. And this is why in the tropics, according to tropical biologists in a particular book, more than 50% of tropical trees make some kind of fruit because it's the best way to get their seeds distributed. Animals will come and eat something tasty, and some of those seeds will be left in places where they're likely to be more viable. Certainly, almost anywhere is better than under the canopy of the parent tree. Okay, under the canopy of the parent tree, that seedling, that sapling, is going to struggle to get enough sunlight. It's going to struggle for water and nutrients. Okay, competing with the developed root system of its parent. So it needs to be moved away. All right. But fruiting plants make fruit in order to distribute their seeds. And so fruits are typically not toxic. Okay, they're the one part of the plant that's not toxic because they want the fruit to be eaten. There are some exceptions, of course. Of course, there are some fruits that we shouldn't eat, in the same way that while all cats, from house cats to lions and tigers, There are obligate carnivores that have to eat flesh. Humans are certainly, some of these people commenting on my videos who don't have a clue what they're talking about. Probably listen to people like Chafee, with this nonsense and say, well, it's almost like we're obligate carnivores. We're most certainly not. And, this should be obvious. Many people from time immemorial have been vegans and vegetarians. It's estimated that there are, what was it, 1.5 billion vegetarians on the planet today. So the idea that we have to eat meat is ridiculous. Of those 1.5 billion people, are there people who are very healthy? Of course, there are people who are amazingly healthy. Someone said to me, you can't build muscle without eating animal protein. Really? Well, that should be news to Patrick Baboumian, who was the world's strongest man 3 years in a row, or to Dave Scott, who was the first person, a vegan, both Patrick Baboumian and Dave Scott, vegan, first person to win the Ironman triathlon 6 times as a vegan. Okay, or to the Williams sisters, or to hundreds of vegan athletes, professional athletes, who are doing perfectly well without eating animal products. Okay, so this idea that we have to eat animal products to be healthy or strong is complete nonsense on its face. Like there's no reason for anyone to even consider that idea for even a moment, because it's ridiculously absurd. And that should be obvious to anyone who has half a brain. I think a lot of people do have half a brain, perhaps only. But folks, all we have to do is to think about this. And again, there are many ways to think about this. So let's consider, someone recently commented on one of my videos and said, yeah, but our bodies are almost exactly the same as carnivores. Oh, that's news to me. I mean, certainly there are similarities between our bodies and carnivores. At least most carnivores that I know of have eyes, a mouth, a nose, legs. Some of them, not all of them. Snakes don't have legs, but aside from that, in terms of our digestive systems, the same? No, not at all. And I don't remember all of the points now. So if I can find it here, I probably should have opened this beforehand. That's not it. I wrote some notes. Let's see here. Ooh, boo, boo, here we go. I think this is it. Okay. This is actually not the right piece. So, I mean, this covers just a few very basic things, which I don't even probably need this. But I really wanted to get into some of this person's arguments, because they were such ridiculous arguments. I mean, this is someone, again, who's obviously gotten this information from somewhere else and doesn't understand it, doesn't it can't actually interpret it, can't properly vet it, determine for himself if it makes sense. It didn't make any sense. It wasn't logical at all in literally any way, shape, or fashion. But these are arguments that are being passed around, and this happens all the time. I mean, people all the time on social media are quoting something that they heard from some influencer or that somebody else posted, and they don't have any reason to know that this is true. It's not true. So let's talk about some of these things. The first one that most people mention, the carnivore types say, is that our stomach acid is just as acidic as the carnivores. And it turns out that this is, according to some sources, this is actually not the case. Now, there's a range of stomach acid in humans and carnivores, but on average, our stomach acid averages around 2.5 pH. This is pH 2.5. Theirs averages roughly 1.5. Okay, now if you understand how that scale works, it's a logarithmic scale. And what that means is that for every change of a point, it's 10 times. In other words, carnivore stomach acid is 10 times stronger than ours. But it turns out that's not the only factor. It's not just about the pH of the stomach acid. The pH is 10 times more acidic than human stomach acid. Okay, but that's only one factor. Because when we're talking about acids, we have to talk about the molarity. Molarity is a measure of concentration, okay? Because it's not simply acid in the stomach, right? There's also digestive enzymes and liquids, other things. And so the question is, how concentrated is that acid? On average, the carnivore, the digestive mixture in a carnivore stomach is 10 times more concentrated than it is in the stomach of a human. 10 times the acid, 10 times stronger, more acidic, 10 times the concentration means, guess what? It's 100 times more powerful in the stomach of a carnivore than in a human. Okay? I mean, think about this. A snake, for instance, consumes the entire mouse and digests it, bones and all. Okay? You eat one piece of corn or one sunflower seed, and they pass through your system completely unchanged. Okay, our systems are very weak compared to theirs. Okay, but it's not just that. I mean, we look at the enzymes in the mouth. Okay, we make salivary amylase. It's a starch digesting enzyme. Why do we make that? So that we can break down, we can begin to digest fruits that are not fully ripened. Okay, they don't make it. They have an enzyme called uricase. Uric acid is one of the byproducts of protein metabolism, and carnivores make a lot of, take a lot of uric acid, create a lot of uric acid as a result of protein metabolism. Our bodies are meant for very little protein consumption, very little protein. So we don't need uricase. We don't make uricase. They do. Carnivores and omnivores make uricase. Our bodies don't make it. There's no reason that we would need it. Okay. Many animals need to consume vitamin C. We do, but lots of animals don't because it's not part of their diet. So they're able to get it without consuming it. We don't make it. Okay. We have to consume it. We get it from eating plants. All right. There's no reason for it to be something our bodies create. They talk about needing heme iron, right? Heme iron is better iron for us than the iron we're getting from plants, because all minerals show up in various different forms. Well, it turns out that in studies, the people with the highest concentration of heme iron, which comes from eating meat, from animal products, the higher the concentration of heme iron, the higher the rates of disease. Okay, we don't want to consume, we don't need any heme iron. We get all the iron we need from plants. Okay, I've eaten no meat in 37 years. I'm not suffering any problems as a result of a lack of iron. Okay, there's no problems whatsoever. They talk about the fact that we need vitamin A. Okay, vitamin A only comes from animals. Do we need vitamin A? Well, not exactly. I mean, what we don't need to consume it. It's not an essential nutrient for us. Why not? Because our bodies convert carotenes. Okay, we can convert carotenes into vitamin A, so we don't need to consume vitamin A. All right, and we get all the vitamin A we need from consuming carotenes. How do I know that? Well, vitamin A, one of the things that vitamin A does for you is it keeps your vision healthy. I've got 6 siblings who all wear glasses, at least to read or drive. Not me. Okay, I'm the only one who doesn't eat animal products. Shouldn't I have a problem with vitamin A? I don't. And I don't worry about it. It's not like I'm trying to get as many carotenes as possible. Over the course of my day or my week, I'm eating orange fruits and vegetables sometimes, mostly fruits for me. I mean, but we get all we need that way. Okay, we don't have to worry about this. And on and on. I mean, think about the digestive tract, right? I commented recently on my YouTube channel and here on Instagram as well. I'm on both right now. If you see me changing direction, I've got 2 devices because I haven't figured out yet how to do them both with one. I'm not very technical. And I commented on a popular social media popularity, carnivore, young woman, carnivore, who had this giant plate of meat and lard and a stick of butter. I mean, disgusting looking fare. Excuse me if you eat this stuff, but it's we'll come back to that point in a second. And someone said, she said her poops are like buttery smooth and etc. Right? And someone said, yeah, I wonder how often. And someone else said, well, someone asked her. I didn't read the comments on the YouTube video that we took a little shot of, but she actually said in response to a question on that video that she poops like, I think it was once a week. Okay, I had another carnivore type who said she pooped like once every 10 days. Carnivores, real carnivores in nature, animal carnivores, that are bodies are set up for that, have short, smooth, straight digestive tracts so that they eliminate very quickly after their meals, within a couple hours at the most. If you have a dog, you know what I'm talking about. You feed the dog, and an hour after the meal, and there it goes. Okay, because it takes what it needs and eliminates the waste quickly because of the toxic byproducts of protein metabolism. Okay, so our digestive tracts, I mean, think about a 500-pound tiger has a 12-foot long digestive tract from mouth to anus. Okay, a 100-pound woman has a 32-foot digestive tract. So a woman who's 20% as long, as large as the animal, has a digestive tract that's 2.5 times longer. If she was the size of that tiger, her digestive tract would be 12.5 times longer, assuming it was all proportionate. Okay, so why is that? Well, we're meant to consume things that don't create any toxic byproducts, so we can very slowly move them through our system, extract all the nutrients. Okay, that's why we have a sacculated small intestine that allows us to absorb as many nutrients as possible. It dramatically increases the surface area. The surface area of the small intestine, if you were to take the tube, which is a 1/2 inch in diameter and roughly, let's say 20 feet long, would be roughly 5 square feet. Okay, roughly 5 square feet, roughly 1/2 meter. But if we were to actually open it up and take the surface area with the sacculations, it's roughly equivalent to that of a tennis court, which I forget is, it's like 1,000 times bigger than that. That's so that we can absorb all the nutrients possible without absorbing a lot of toxins. Okay, carnivores don't have this. They don't have this. Okay, now, again, clearly, we're not herbivores in the sense of cows, sheep, and goats, which I think is where I started this conversation. Okay, yeah, the genius. Yes, we're not cows, sheep. It's like, I wonder why that is. I said, well, maybe it's because we're not ruminants. Okay, we don't have 4 stomachs. We don't need bacteria, different groups of bacteria in the 4 stomachs to be able to digest grass, which is almost all cellulose. We can't digest cellulose, but we don't need to be able to digest cellulose. Now, it's true that our closest primate relatives do have slightly or significantly longer, where our small intestine is quite a bit larger, almost 4 times as big as the large intestine. It's the other way around for them. Why is that? Because in nature, they're sometimes forced to eat things that are high in cellulose. And so they have to have the ability to ferment that cellulose to get fatty acids from it. That's what happens in their systems. We don't need to be able to do any significant amount of that. There's a small amount of that happens in the cecum. Okay, but we don't need any significant amount of that. Our systems otherwise are almost identical to those of the chimps and bonobos, who will eat almost exclusively fruit when they can get fruit. Okay, so they have the ability to take nutrients from other things, but they need to do that because they don't have access. Right, in the rainiest months of the year, October in Costa Rica, for instance, there's less fruit available because it rains a lot, twice as much as in September and November, for instance. And so there's less fruit available, right? Because of that, the fruit can beat the rain can beat the fruit up. The fruits need sun, and so we have less available that month. And where the chimps and bonobos live in Africa, they have times where they have much less fruit available, so they have to be able They have to be able to get their nutrients from other things. We don't, because we have higher quality food available to us. So we don't need those things. Okay. There's so many other differences, distinctions. Okay. If you're a carnivore, if you're a wolf, for instance, you don't want to telegraph your whereabouts to your prey. Because of that, carnivores don't sweat. They pant to cool down through the mouth. It's not a very efficient way to cool down, but it allows them to prevent from telegraphing their whereabouts to their prey. We sweat, so the animals around us know exactly where we are. That wouldn't be very useful to us if we were trying to sneak up on an animal. Now, let me point something out. And again, if you're following me for a long time, you've heard me say this before. Okay, we are tropical animals. I'm in Utah right now, up in the mountains at pretty high elevation, a ski resort. And it's chilly outside. It's a beautiful sunny day, but it's chilly. I'm inside a building next to a fireplace, and I still have on 2 shirts. Okay. Why? I mean, there are squirrels and chipmunks and deer and all kinds of animals, buffalo out there. They don't need to be inside buildings with heating systems. They don't need to put clothing on top of their hides. Why is that? That's because they're made for this environment and they're perfectly fine. You and I need to protect our tropical bodies. We have to maintain about 95 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't remember exactly. That would probably be somewhere in the range of 34, 35 degrees Celsius right here in the center of the torso. We have to maintain that temperature. And so we use clothing and buildings and heating systems in order to do that. We're tropical animals. Now, why do I point this out in this discussion about fruit? Well, again, about diet. First of all, as I pointed out to you, tropical trees make fruit. I don't know what your experience has been, but as far as I can tell, mangoes don't run nearly as quickly as squirrels do or deer. Okay. And by the way, I mean, if you want to eat, there are very few large animals in the tropics. Okay, most tropical mammals are about this big. We do have tropical deer, and they're 2/3 the size of deer here in North America. Okay, they're much smaller. We have big cats, the carnivores. You probably wouldn't want to eat them. I mean, first of all, you're hungry. Would you rather try to kill a deer I wouldn't want to kill either, but if you had to, a deer or a wildcat, well, I think you'd be a little safer with the deer. The deer don't fight back the same way. Okay. But as it turns out, in nature, carnivores don't normally eat carnivores. Why not? Because all the nutrients are coming from plants. All the nutrients are coming from plants. Yeah, the carnivores' bodies contain vitamin A. They make it just like we do. Okay, by eating plants or eating carnivores. The carnivores eat animals that eat plants. The animals that people eat are typically not carnivores. They're typically herbivores. And again, herbivores means all plant eaters. So we're not ruminants. Okay, we're not foliivores. We're not giraffes. Okay, we're not deer that eat the leaves off of small green plants. But we're fruit eaters. We're fruit eaters. Now, again, you may have never thought about this. Consider your house cat, or if you don't have a house cat, you've certainly seen them. We have quite a few at Tanglewood. When a bird flies by, flies into the building, sometimes because it's completely open. Our living area is really a giant covered patio, okay, surrounded by amazing gardens. And when a bird comes in, the cats immediately perk up and crouch, waiting for their opportunity. Their natural instinct is to pounce on the animal and kill it. Okay. There's some anthropologist who is not particularly well respected in the field, but who thinks that we were meant to consume only large mammals. Really, and we're going to jump on their back and bite through their jugular vein? I don't think so. I don't think we're going to bite through their leather hide. Okay, that's not going to happen. And we don't have that natural tendency. I mean, some people might have trained that into themselves, right? But I don't know anyone who looks at a bunny rabbit and thinks that looks delicious. I mean, maybe a chef who cooks a lot of rabbit, but most of us, we think, oh, isn't that cute? Isn't that beautiful? Okay, we respect animals. We find them beautiful, attractive. We don't, most of us don't see them naturally, instinctively as food. That doesn't happen. Okay. That's just not what's going on. So, the cows find grass attractive. Anteaters think there's nothing that looks tastier than an ant. Okay, you and I mean, it's not all plants. Again, we're not just plant eaters. Okay, you walk by a pond covered with algae. Well, that's not really a plant, but are you thinking that looks delicious? No, it's not our natural diet. You walk down the beach and there's a pile of seaweed there. Are you thinking that looks delicious? Or are you thinking I'm going to try not to step in that? I think the answer is obvious for most of us. Okay, we're clearly not intended to be eating that, because if we were, we would see it differently. The one thing that we all have in common is we're all attracted to fruits. That's what our bodies are meant for. And while there are people who say, well, but you can't get enough protein that way. Well, maybe you can't get enough protein that way, but I've been getting my protein that way for a long time with no problem. See, it depends on how efficient the body is. The more efficient the body is, the more easily we can get what we need from small amounts of what we consume. And so I need very little food at all, and I need no concentrated fats or proteins. I can eat either one, but my body's happier if I don't eat very much of either. Okay, I eat mostly watermelons and papayas and mangoes and so forth. Here, North America, I mean, not so much anymore, but over the summer it would have been peaches and nectarines and cherries earlier in the summer, etc. Those are the things that are most attractive to most humans, because those are the things that we're meant to eat. Okay, and that, I mean, it's completely clear and obvious. Now, let me talk about something else which is completely misunderstood by most people. So, someone yesterday commented, I'm guessing a young person, commented on one of my videos, I think on Instagram, and said, when someone starts off their comment with LOL, you're going, all right, this person isn't right. Hard to take him very seriously. What he said was, I've been trying to heal my acne for 15 years. And I tried fruits for 3 years and it didn't heal. And 2 months on meat only, and it's gone. Okay. So the problem here, the reason that, and there are many people who say, yeah, I got much better, right? I healed only when I went to meat only. Well, let's be clear that what this person is really talking about is eliminating a symptom, because that's what acne is. Acne is not the problem, it's a symptom. Acne tells us that there's toxicity in the body and the body is detoxifying. That's what acne is. It's detoxification. So if you are eating the cleanest diet possible, what is your body able to do? Continue detoxifying, right? When you go to a diet that is so toxic to the body that it's been shown, and again, we can talk about some of the studies, the Framingham Heart Study. I mean, again, we've got people out there like Anthony Chaffee, he says that the study showed that the more cholesterol you ate, the healthier you were. The study says exactly the opposite of that. And he's counting on people not actually reading it. But the study says the exact opposite. The higher your cholesterol, the higher the rates of heart disease. That's what the study shows. 75-year-old study, okay, considered one of the best studies ever published. And there's many others. There's many others that show similar results. I mean, there's a recent study that showed that if you were to take 3% of your calories and switch them from animal protein to plants instead, you would see a 38% reduction in heart disease and other diseases. So what we know, I mean, what's common knowledge among everyone except these, these deluded folks who are following this carnivore diet, is that eating only meat is just very destructive to your liver and your kidneys. You're going to wind up with liver and kidney disease. This is what happens. Again, I mean, that alone, I would hope, would be enough, right? That should tell you everything. But people justify this stuff. Now, why is that? Well, that's because these are organs of detoxification. Your liver breaks down toxins, right? Alcohol destroys the liver because it's the liver's job to try to metabolize alcohol. And our livers are meant to handle tiny amounts of alcohol. Why? Because fruit ferments. We need to be able to handle alcohol because we're fruit eaters. And sometimes you bite into a piece of fruit. This happened to me the other day. Bit into a piece of fruit. It was fermented. What did I do? I immediately spit it out. It's not something we want. It's not something that's attractive or appealing to us. It's not something we need to consume, but it's something that we're bound to consume if we're eating the diet their bodies were actually made for. So our livers are intended to handle small amounts of alcohol. But as soon as we take it by the glass full, now we've got problems, right? Well, eating meat destroys the liver because it's not meant for that. And it destroys the kidneys, who have to actually outprocess all these toxins from the bloodstream into the bladder. That's how we get rid of most toxins from the body. They're dumped into the bloodstream. They're filtered out through the kidneys. Your kidneys filter your blood roughly 60 times every day. And so they both get destroyed. So why did this person's acne go away when he started eating meat? Well, it's very simple. He started eating a diet that was way more toxic. His body could no longer detoxify. Okay. If you've ever heard the term hair of the dog that bit you, you understand what this is. Okay. I mean, I grew up in the 60s and 70s. Okay. I started drinking at 14 and using drugs because I was trying to escape my reality. Wasn't so happy at home. Okay. Gave it up before I turned 25. But the point is, I would wake up with a headache, a headache from a hangover. What would I do? Have a drink. Okay, you re-intoxicate and your body stops detoxifying. You can't do both. If you're intoxicating, effectively cuts off detoxification. That's why people see these symptoms going away when they start eating a meat-based diet. Is this good for anybody? Absolutely not. It's completely harmful. Completely harmful. And again, the science is absolutely clear about this. The problem is, if you're getting your information from some of these carnivore types, they're not very smart and they're not reading the study, or they're not properly interpreting the study, or they're actively lying to you. Okay? Because there's simply no science to support the idea. They're saying the exact opposite of what they're saying. This idea that plants can kill you. Again, coming back to this guy Chafee, plants can kill you, right? Yeah. Again, most plants want to protect themselves, but he quotes Dr. Bruce Ames, who stated very, very clearly. Bruce Ames, renowned scientist, has won every prize except the Nobel Prize, and who makes it very clear. What he published was that the people eating see if I can remember exactly how it was. It was the 25% of people eating the least amount of plants had, like 2 or 3 times the risk of most major diseases. Really clear. Ames is saying exactly the opposite of what Chafee says he's saying. Again, does he not understand? Or is he purposely misrepresenting? I don't know. But the facts are simple. The facts are clear. Okay? We are meant to eat plants. Someone said to me, well, we can't digest fiber. He said, meat is essential. We can't digest fiber. Do I make myself clear? That was a comment I got today. I'm ignoring it. Yeah, you make yourself clear. You don't understand much. There's nothing essential about meat. There's not a thing we need. Okay, science has been clear since the 2013 study was published, showing that the more protein we consume, the faster we age and die. both plant proteins and animal proteins. Now, animal proteins are much worse. According to a paper last year, which I don't have in front of me, if 30% of calories came from animal proteins, there was 3 times the risk of death from all causes. If 30% came from plant proteins, there was twice the risk of death from all causes. So all excess protein is harmful to us. We know that for a fact. Okay? We know that. If you look at the longest lived humans on the planet, okay, look at the blue zones, for instance. Okay, now the blue zones, Blue Zones was a book. It was the work of one man and the people he put together. Did they get every group? No, they're still finding long-lived populations now. But what each of these populations has in common is they all eat plant-based diets. And to be absolutely clear, that doesn't mean they don't eat any animal products. It means the vast predominance of what they eat are plants. And this includes the Okinawans, who are no longer on that list. They've been taken off the list. Why? Because they've moved more towards a more conventional diet. But everyone said, well, the Okinawans, they eat mostly fish. The carnivore people say they eat mostly animals. No, they don't. They eat mostly potatoes, or did for generations, plus fruits and the other things they grew. They ate a little bit of seafood, not very much. All of the blue zone populations, including the one around Tanglewood in Costa Rica, where I live, all of those populations eat a plant-based diet. Okay, all of the research has shown the same thing. Now, I mean, again, I don't mean to say there are no studies demonstrating that eating meat is good for you. There are studies that demonstrate various benefits. But again, the question is always in the interpretation. Well, there's 2 questions. One is, the first question we should always ask is, who paid for the study? There's peer research performed by research institutions with no direct funding. Okay, but a lot of studies are published by absolutely not. Okay, I've had 2 clients tell me from 2 different countries that they've worked for research labs. I see we're disconnected here on Instagram. Due to poor connection. Hopefully that comes back in just a moment. Okay, but 2 clients who work for research labs who said the data and these are not necessarily these medical studies, health studies. These might be studies on products and so forth. But they lie to you. They publish a 10% of the actual study, completely valid study, but how is it actually interpreted? How's that data interpreted? And it's often not interpreted very well. Okay. Now, I've given you lots of things to think about here. Okay. Look at the design of the body. We're tropical animals. We're meant to be in a place where there's fruit everywhere. Very relatively few large animals. Yeah, we can try to make our living on squirrels, etc. Good luck with that. We're meant to eat plants. It's what we're attracted to. Our systems are set up for. They're completely different, our digestive tracts, from animals, right? I mean, this person who commented last week and said, yeah, but we have enzymes that digest collagen. Right. That's because our bodies break down our cells with collagen all the time, nonstop, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We're constantly replacing cells. That's why it's there. Okay. There are people who say, well, we need cholesterol. Yes, we do. And our bodies produce all the cholesterol we need. We don't ever need to consume animals. Remember, the studies have been very clear. Although often misrepresented, the studies, if you look at them, are very clear. The higher cholesterol, the higher the rates of heart disease. Okay? The higher the rates of all kinds of diseases. So we're running out of time here. Let me see if there's anything else. Oh, there's a few other things I did want to get to here. I didn't get a chance to mention all the studies, and I probably won't mention them all now. But let's talk about a few things here. Things and polyphenols and carotenoids. Remember, we are tropical animals when we eat plants, right? The carotenoids are the phytonutrients that protect the fruits and vegetables from the sun. When we eat them, we get the benefit of that. Increases, it's like a SPF factor of 2, which means you can spend twice as much time in the sun. Okay. That's a useful thing when you're living in the tropics. We're running around naked in the tropics. That's what our bodies are meant for. Okay. We're not getting those things if you're eating animal products. All right. Carnivore people point out B12. Well, the fact is the vast majority of people on the planet are deficient in B12. Yeah, vegans and vegetarians are included in that, but so are carnivores. So are people eating conventionally and people eating a carnivore diet. Most people are deficient in B12 because it has to do with not how much B12 you are putting in your mouth, how much is actually getting to your cells, and most people's systems don't work very well. Okay. Now it turns out that your gut biome, which is the 10 trillion 3 pounds of bacteria that live in your colon, they produce all the B vitamins every day. And many scientists have said for decades, yeah, we know that, but you can't get them. You can get them. That's how I get all my B12. I'm consuming animal products now for nearly 40 years. Okay. So there's no question. Carnivores have to supplement too because they're all deficient. Most of them are fit. What we know is that the more B12 you take, the higher the risk of bone fracture. We know the more vitamin D you take, the higher the risk of bone fracture. Looks like I just lost my internet here. We're back. Okay. Hopefully we're back here. We're recording here on YouTube. I'm not sure. It's my first video on my new YouTube channel after some Cro-Magnon took everything down. Okay, there's nasty people out there, that's for sure. Horrible people. And I'm perfectly healthy. Okay, like 25 million animal species on the planet don't need supplements when they eat their natural diet. We don't need them either. Okay, we don't need them either. I've got lots of connection issues here today. Okay, we don't need supplements, and I don't take any. And if you get your body clean, this is the key that most people miss. Most people think it's all about diet. The first thing is you've got to clean all the garbage out of your body so your body works properly. This is why fasting. This is why for 37 years I've been telling people you have to fast to be as healthy as possible. And why almost 29 years ago I opened the Tanglewood Wellness Center to help people optimize their health. I guarantee in writing that you will take your health to the highest level possible. For you, I don't want to forget anything. Were there any other points? I mean, it's almost too late to start getting into questions because I've got to jump off this call in just about 4 minutes off this video. So let me just think if there's anything else I didn't think to say already. I think I've covered most of it. Okay. I mean, here's what's clear. Humans are intelligent enough, and perhaps our bodies are adaptable enough that we can survive in all kinds of places, consuming all kinds of things. But can we thrive consuming anything? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There's plenty of research, plenty of evidence that says, yeah, people seem to do okay on a carnivore type diet. I mean, okay, not great, not better than most people, but okay for maybe 10 years. And then downhill. There's a YouTube channel here, a guy even older than me. I know that's hard to believe, kind of 70s, who I can't remember his name. He had a channel called Plant Choppers. They've just changed the name, and I don't remember now what it's called. But he did a video comparing the longevity of plant-based health gurus with meat-based health gurus. And then it was so popular, people asked, well, how about this person? How about that person? And so he wound up doing 2 more videos. And it's interesting. I've seen all of them. I had hoped to go back through them. I thought about this yesterday, and I've been so busy, I didn't have a chance. So I wanted to go back and watch. I mean, it would have been like, 4 hours probably worth of video to watch of him talking about all these people, and of course there's exceptions on both sides. There's some plant-based people who didn't live as long, and there's some meat based people who lived a little bit longer. But on average, the plant-based people dramatically outlived the meat-based people. I mean, over and over again. We're talking about probably, it was dozens and dozens. I mean, 3-4 dozen people he looked at, and the same things over and over again. This guru who said that meat was the best thing you could do died before he was 50, and et cetera, et cetera. That happens over and over again. Okay. Unfortunately, there are many people being taken in by the media, and it's entirely possible. I mean, Chafee seems like an intelligent guy. You already know, we both know, there are people willing to do anything for money, right? I mean, it's entirely possible that he's not an idiot, but he's getting paid by the meat lobby to say the ridiculous, absurd, completely dishonest, disingenuous things he's saying. He's misrepresenting studies, misrepresenting scientists and what they said. Either he's not very smart or he's being dishonest. Okay. But it's entirely possible that he's laughing all the way to the bank. He doesn't care. Some people don't care, right? We know there are people who will do anything for a buck. Okay. We know that. There aren't so many people who will always do what they think is the right thing, regardless of the outcome. But I would say to you, when you look at these people and, check out what they're saying. It actually checks out. It doesn't. There is no science to support the idea that we need to eat animal products at all. We don't need them. Okay. We don't need them. They're destructive to the planet. They're causing misery, death, right? This is not something anybody should be involved in. I hope this is clear. I hope this has been useful for you. I'm gonna jump off, and I'll look forward to seeing you all next time. I'll be back next week, same time. Take care.